This episode of the podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/lightscameranonsense. Visit patreon.com/lightscameranonsense to help support your favorite new movie podcast. Now, let's roll that reel.
Hello everyone and welcome to Lights, Camera, Nonsense, where we give you all the latest movie magic you may have missed. I'm Nick, totally alone for this episode, Simmons, and on June 12th, 2021, let's dive into the previews. But before we do that, let's talk about Patreon. Let's talk about patreon.com/lightscameranonsense. You can help support your favorite new movie podcast by heading on over to patreon.com/lightscameranonsense, signing up for just $1 a month. It's just $1. That's one large drink at McDonald's if you're very thirsty. That's one McDouble. That's, what is it? The spicy potato burrito at Taco Bell. Listen, I'm very fat. I eat a lot of fast food. I know how much $1 can give you. And let me tell you, if you sign up for us at patreon.com/lightscameranonsense for only $1 a month, you get our content a day early so that you can brag about all of the stuff that you heard on this podcast to all of your friends so that they can listen too and sign up and, help support us. Also, if you're like, that's cool and all, I don't mind being there early, but I want to help rep you in the real world, IRL, by repping your merch. Well, that's okay, because you can head on over to store.lightscameranonsense.com, buy a shirt there, submit your own designs by heading on over to lightscameranonsense@gmail.com, and we'll incorporate them into our new product line that we are unveiling in just a few months' time. Excited? You should be. If you want to hear more news about that new product line, or you want to hear about what we have in the works later on this year, head on over to lightscameranonsense.com or follow us on Twitter or Instagram. We post a lot of stuff there, including clips and outtakes. All of that nonsense aside, let's dive into the previews. So we didn't record an episode last week because we had a lot of life stuff going on, and unfortunately Zach couldn't make it this week because he is moving apartments. So you have just me this week, and I have so much flippin' energy because I ate so many Oreos just a few minutes ago, and I really shouldn't because, again, like I said earlier, I'm fat. But I need that energy, all right? I need the sugar because we have so many things to talk about, and that's why I also rushed through the intro. So sorry if it all just sounded like a lot of babbling. If this is your first episode, oh boy, do you have a lot of energy coming your way. Let's talk about Burnham Inside. It's the talk of the town on TikTok, all right? TikTok town. Everyone that lives in TikTok town is talking about it. Granted, that's just a lot of teenagers who just got immediately depressed because they didn't realize what Bo Burnham's content was actually about, which is just a lot of like, I have a lot of stuff going through my mind, and I'm a comedian, but I'm really trying to tell you about all this postmodernism type of takes on comedy and how art is dead. And really, what else were you expecting? He was also locked in his apartment throughout all of 2020. And guess what? He had some stuff to say. So he recorded an entire special. The songs are bangers. They might make you a little sad. Every single thing that you see on that special had a intended purpose, except for one thing that I feel like he may have missed that I'm not sure. And I feel like people are reading too much into. And that's like, there's a segment where he's like pretending to be a Twitch streamer, and he's like playing this game about himself crying in his apartment. It's all very existential, but there's a still of him accidentally inserted into a different segment of the special, and I feel like that was unintentional, but people are reading too much into it. Anyway, it was like a blink and you miss it kind of moment. You'll notice it when you see it. It's on Netflix right now. Go watch it, because if this doesn't get nominated for something, I'm going to be very upset. It's a beautifully organized, edited, besides that one thing that I mentioned. The music, like I said, it's just all very catchy. I've been listening to the soundtrack ever since it released middle of last week, and it's baffling to me how wonderfully shot it was. It was just like, this was one guy who over the course of an entire year created this, and I'm like, what did I do over the course of 2020? Cried. Lost my job, played Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was fun, but honestly, I could have been making a comedy special and selling that to Netflix and making millions of dollars, but I didn't. So, well done you, Bo Burnham. Let's talk about In the Heights, which actually just came out yesterday. It's on HBO Max, but you can also see it in theaters, which I highly recommend, even though I saw it on HBO Max. I have been hearing wonderful things about the audience reception from In the Heights because it was a musical written by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who you may know from Hamilton and who you may know less from, but His Dark Materials, he's also in that show, which is, a thing. And it's about this borough of Washington Heights in New York, and how it's like all these different stories of all these different characters who are going through all these troubles of day-to-day life. And it's like there's a blackout and people are going through like, oh, I just want to live, I want to live my dream, and I want to like leave this neighborhood, or oh, I want to come back to this neighborhood because my life at school sucks. And it's about gentrification, it's about racism, it's about dealing with the troubles of regular everyday life. And the one thing that I will complain about is that it doesn't really focus on all of the characters. It kind of focuses on some characters more than others, and so some of them feel a little bit more bland. But other than that, the musical numbers, the choreography, the soundtrack just overall is catchy, and it's wonderfully directed by John M. Chu, who also directed Crazy Rich Asians. I'm sorry. So it's got the powerhouse behind it. Lin-Manuel Miranda is also in it, as well as Anthony Ramos, and who else? Help me out, Wikipedia. Leslie Grace, Melissa Barrera, Olga Moret. I'm just gonna butcher all of these names. Jimmy Smits, who I know, Corey Hawkins. I'm sorry for all of the names that I butchered, but it's a fantastic movie, and I think if you feel like you have been missing out on a fantastic musical to help get your blood pumping, and I don't know, it's a fantastic movie, so I highly recommend it. Let's talk about The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, which is a sequel to The Hitman's Bodyguard, directed by Patrick Hughes and released in 2017. This one, also directed by Patrick Hughes, released in 2021, 4 years later. Guess what? The story of The Hitman's Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, fuck, I hate this movie's title, takes place 4 years later, after Ryan Reynolds' character, Michael Bryce, has saved Samuel L. Jackson's character by being his bodyguard and by defeating Gary Oldman in the first movie. I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic watch, and it's very hilarious. Ryan Reynolds at the top of his game. Samuel L. Jackson kind of at the top of his game. I mean, he's allowed to say motherfucker a lot, so that's cool. And he does it twice as much in this one, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. It's not A+ material. But if you like Ryan Reynolds, you like Samuel L. Jackson, Salma Hayek, are all fantastic in this. I think Salma is, of course, the highlight of the movie, which is, of course, why she is one of the main characters. She's coming back from the first movie, but Antonio Banderas and Antonio Banderas and Morgan Freeman, who we all know his name, star in this movie as well, and they play fantastic characters as well. A little bit more on the cliche stereotypes, or archetypes, I should say. But it's just a kind of fun comedy action film. Just go into it knowing that it's more of a popcorn flick and not a going in for a good story kind of thing. Like, I'll just say it. Ryan Reynolds gets hit by a car like 3 or 4 times in this movie, and he should have died, and he doesn't. A lot of gravity-defying stunts and physics ignoring type of stunts. It's a lot. I don't know. Popcorn flick, all right? Go into it knowing it's a big, dumb movie. It's might as well have been directed by Michael Bay. Speaking of Michael Bay, I watched Infinite, which is a thing. Directed by Anton Fuqua and written by Ian Shore. Stars Mark Wahlberg, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I did it right. Just mispronouncing every single name today. Sophie Cookson, who you may remember from Kingsman Secret Service. Jason Mantzoukas, Toby Jones, Dylan O'Brien. So you may have seen previews for this, and it was originally going to be released in theaters, but was pulled by Paramount to be released on their Paramount Plus, not CBS All Access anymore, but Paramount Plus streaming service. To be a new, like that new blockbuster action movie to kind of incentivize people to sign up. Well, guess what? Oh boy, is it not worth it. Let's look at the Rotten Tomatoes score. Let's see, Rotten Tomatoes, 16%. Now that's critics, but the audience score is also 40%. So not a lot of people are liking it. I actually went into this movie with no expectations whatsoever. Like, I had seen the preview, the trailer for it, and I was like, this is kind of interesting. Not sure how I feel about Mark Wahlberg, because he's kind of on my shit list. Like, don't even bother with this guy. He shouldn't be what draws me into a movie. But the trailer drew me in, and I was intrigued, because I love me a good sci-fi action flick that's grounded in reality and not like all in space and shit, because those are a dime a dozen. But the trailer gave me like very Inception, like Tenet, 1917 vibes. Like, I know it was 1917 wasn't Christopher Nolan, but Christopher Nolan sci-fi action vibes. And as soon as I got like about 10-20 minutes in, I was like, yeah, this is very much a Christopher Nolan movie if it was written and directed by Michael Bay. Take of that what you will. I even wrote that on Twitter, and let's see if that gets any responses. I doubt it will. I have no friends. Like, where I said Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard was kind of like a popcorn action flick, this is kind of like it. A lot of critics have been comparing it to The Matrix, which I feel like is kind of weird and out of left field, but it starts off as a really great sci-fi action flick, but then like starts introducing sci-fi elements just for the sake of being a sci-fi movie. And there are a lot of plot holes here and there that if you focus too much on the story, it's gonna lose all weight. Like, one character specifically has like powers, kind of, but they don't really explain it. And there's like people who get shot by this one gun, gets their brain consciousness gets transplanted onto like a memory chip card thing. And it's just like, why are you introducing all of this stuff if you know for a fact the story is not going to go anywhere? It's just like, the acting is really well done. Chiwetel Ejiofor and Sophie Cookson especially do fantastic, but Mark Wahlberg, of course, just is playing Mark Wahlberg, and I feel like I just want to insert that gif or that clip of "What? No" from The Happening and just use that, because that's basically what Mark Wahlberg does with every movie he's in. Like, even I don't want to spoil it, but some of the actors that I mentioned earlier are not in the whole movie, because the whole premise is that there's a select group of people that can remember their past lives. And so every time they die, they get reincarnated and they remember their past life. And so that group split off into two different groups. Like, one group wants to destroy the world, one group wants to save it, and Mark Wahlberg's on the good guy side, Chiwetel Ejiofor is on the bad guy side. You could tell by the poster. A lot of the weight gets taken out of the movie, because it's just, who cares if this character dies because they're going to get reincarnated, unless they get shot by this one gun and then their brain is a fucking USB stick. So I mean, it started off really fun, and I liked the cool action in like the first 20-30 minutes of it, but it quickly just falls apart. And I feel like I've spent way too much money on this, or way too much time on this, but money is time is money, on this movie. I would give it a hard pass, but I mean, if you have Paramount Plus, then it's on there. I don't know who signed up for Paramount Plus, but if you have, it's on there. And then let's talk about Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Let's talk about how the fact that Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga are back. They're playing why am I blanking on their names? Ed and Lorraine Warren, thank you, Wikipedia, as they are covering the famous 1981 case of, what is the character's name? Arnie Johnson being possessed by the devil, and using that as a reasoning for why he murdered this one guy. Wonderfully shot, wonderfully acted, of course, again by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. I feel like it's just, after Conjuring 1 and 2, the standard for the Conjuring movies was kind of high, especially after the Annabelle movies have been kind of like just slowly getting worse and worse. And I feel like that's now happening with the Conjuring movies. I don't know if they're going to do another one after this. We'll see. It's been getting, I mean, it's already made its money back. but it's gotten some mixed reviews from critics. Like, it's, I think, the lowest scored out of the Conjuring movies. Still higher than like The Curse of La Llorona and all the other ones, the spin-offs, The Nun, which was terrible. But I mean, if you are interested in seeing another great horror movie, it's directed by Michael Chavez, who also directed The Curse of La Llorona, so I feel like I biffed that one. That's definitely why he came back. But I feel like if you're interested in another great supernatural horror film starring these characters, then you're going to get more of it. It just wasn't that scary to me. Like, I only really kind of like tensed up at one moment, and even then it was kind of like telegraphed pretty obviously. So I'd say that it's, you know, from a 0 to 10 being like 10 being like you're gonna have a heart attack, it's that scary, to 0 like it's infinite, where it's not scary at all for obvious reasons, then it's probably like a 5, you know. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just a tough guy that is not that scared by scary movies anymore. Just kidding. I will pee my pants if I have to watch Martyrs again. And then finally, let's talk about the show that I've actually been watching on Netflix called Sweet Tooth, based on the comic by Jeff Lemire and starring Nonso Nazi and the debut of Christian Convery. I described this to Zach in a text by saying it's a wholesome Last of Us, which I feel like I may have painted it in the wrong light, but I just got weird. Like, this was, I think I texted him that in the first step when I was watching the first episode or the second episode. But basically what it is 10 years ago, the Great Crumble is this collapse of this viral outbreak where hybrid babies start being born, like little babies with like antlers or wings or like pig noses, and all of this going on while there's also a viral outbreak where people start like having breathing issues and then suddenly dying. And a lot of people blame the hybrid children for it, and so there's like this massive pandemic, and then all of society collapses, at least for America. They don't really show the whole world. And we basically follow the story of this young boy who's raised by his papa, or his father, and this young boy is a hybrid boy, and he's raised to be for all intents and purposes, a normal boy in this kind of secluded area of the Yellowstone National Park, until certain events transpired to where he must leave his home to try and find his mother and his origins. Typical, like, hero's journey type of story. And it's been told a million times before, but it's wonderfully acted and portrayed from Christian Convery, who is adorable, and I want to be in more things. And I think Nonso Anansi also plays a great foil for his character. He is a former hunter by like this group of people called the Last Men, who are like these men who are hunting down hybrid children, because hybrid children are, again, they think that they cause this apocalypse, and they cause this wave of a virus, which may or may not be the case. And then, of course, there's just like multiple stories going on. Will Forte plays the father. James Brolin does a fantastic narrator. But yeah, it follows different groups, and I just found that it was a post-apocalyptic story that the whole family can watch in a way. Like, I don't want to say that it's, you know, G-rated, because obviously there's violence and there's violent moments, you know, some scary moments as well. But it's very much like a show that anybody can kind of watch and enjoy. It's just like, I don't know. It's only 8 episodes long. It's produced by Robert Downey Jr. I just now realized. That's interesting. Huh. But yeah, it's based off the, if you've read the graphic novel, it's from what I've heard, it's actually a pretty faithful adaptation of the, I said graphic novel, I meant comic series, of the comic. And I highly recommend it. That's been a show that I've been watching off and on, because it's been kind of busy with work and stuff. And I finished one episode and I wanted to start the next, which is always a great sign. Yeah, I would recommend watching Sweet Tooth. It's fantastic, and it's on Netflix right now. What else? Zach, you got anything else? No? Still gone? It's still just me? Okay, well. Sorry, it's been a bit of a shorter episode, but this has been Lights Camera Nonsense, keeping you updated despite our best efforts. Make sure to tune in every week for all the latest news, reviews, and what else? Shit, he's still gone. How do you do's? It sounds weird hearing me say. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Oh, I could. Bye-bye. That's weird. That's also weird. He'll be back next week.